Namaste, Jai Bharat. We know very well that these elections, there have been tremendous interference and programs to destabilize the election or the process of election, or somehow to get the desired people win through all kinds of programs and calculated moves from without, from many areas. So, but this is not the first time that happens to our nation. I just wanted to, I just recall a much more serious kind of program, which is you can call this as hegemony. You can call this as ideological deception. Ideology and hegemony uh, uh, both can be understood as intellectual legitimization of deception for social domination. Many times I've told you the Baconian kind of approach and the Machiavellian kind of approach. No, but much before that, there had been efforts from people and such meticulously planned, long time taking programs to get what they want in this nation. And I would say one such thing, which is not simply isolated phenomenon, just to remind people that this kind of, we say in Hindi, sadish is nothing new to us. This had been going on since long. And these elections, these people really thought they will get away. They can do things. They can win elections and make this nation weak so that it can turn into the kind of flexibility which they desire. Let me talk about an old thing. This happens during the British colonial time in Bharat, and the viceroy that time was Babington Macaulay, who had come to see this nation and who wanted to subjugate the entire continent, and he wanted to continue domination of the British rule in the Bharat as long as possible. He wanted to extend it so long as so that the longer the period of British colonial rule in Bharat, the longer they can keep looting us, taking things and taking back to England. Naturally, they may be interested in their nation's welfare, but as I used to say, it should not be at the cost of my nation's interest. If you are independent, you make your own future fortune. Who's feeling envy? At least we are not Pakistan. We don't feel envy. You legitimately gain. So Macaulay wanted to continue the domination of British or the British colonial domination as far as possible. So he had seen why he came across a difficulty. He says the people of Bharat do not accept the British mentally, due to the rule, due to the kind of policies, and just because they have their army. Of course, it's not their army, our own army, working for them. It so happened that they rule us. They are there, so people externally they would not say anything. They would pretend as though they are obedient to the British, but the British know, the sensible people know, that people of Bharat never respect them. They don't say hello from the mines. They don't accept them. They don't accept that the British are superior. This was a problem. They don't accept the superiority of the Britishers. They thought that all wherever they go, the people will accept them to be superior, maybe by virtue of their complexion, or maybe by virtue of the kind of dress they use. Of course, that our dressing was much further advanced and richer than they do. But the people of Bharat had all kinds of reasons not to accept their superiority. All kinds of reasons, starting from personal hygiene to the knowledge tradition. So Macaulay was trying to find out why these people are not accepting us mentally as superior to them. And he really hit on the point. He says they're very, very proud people of their literature. No, he thought it is literature, but it is a knowledge tradition. He simply said that they are very proud of their Vedas and Upanishads. It's not just Vedas and Upanishads, they are much, much more than that. So actually the people of Bharat, whether they know it directly or not, they are very proud of their knowledge tradition, which is the Veda Upanishadic knowledge tradition. One may not be consciously aware of it, but one is actually, one performs that kind of pride in this knowledge tradition. So Macaulay thought how to destroy this. He made a double program. First, he wanted the people to be English educated, which of course later the historians had depicted as reforms in education, English education beginning. He wanted people to be educated in English language. Why? Of course, to suit their convenience. You don't tell me that English language is superior to any Bharati language in any aspect. Of course, it's mostly used language. No, a language is a language. We don't disrespect any language. But don't try to tell me that one language is superior to another. Don't try to tell me that. We know a language is language, and it deserves, every language has its own position. So his idea was entirely different. He wanted the people of Bharat to, the young generation, to learn English. The primary intention of letting people learn English is that in the meantime he would get the Sanskrit texts translated into English. By the time the youngsters of Bharat who go to school and learn English language, the newly English educated people of Bharat, youngsters of Bharat, they should be given the ancient Sanskrit texts from Sanskrit to English as translated. And the translation should be such that anybody reading it should feel that this is gibberish or trash. So what he did, he approached Professor Williams, who was holding the Borden chair in Oxford. And Williams, of course, had his own experience with Bharat, and he refused to do so. But he suggested a name, that was of Max Muller. Says that Max Muller, though people call him as a romantic, he's a German. He knows how to draw Sanskrit and understand Sanskrit and translate, though he doesn't know how to speak, or he can't understand the spoken Sanskrit. That besides the point. Of course, it's not besides the point, but it was never mentioned in any of the history stories. So Max Muller was approached. The then ambassador to German ambassador to England introduces Max Muller to Macaulay, and Macaulay offers him £10,000 to do these translations, with the instruction that your translation should be such that anyone reading it should throw it away as gibberish or trash. Max Muller, of course, accepted, and he didn't have money. He took the money, and then Max Muller settled down in England to do this Herculean task. And then comes the series of the books, Sacred Books of the East, Max Muller's translation. All right. So whether Max Muller, of course, was not very successful in making these translations of Sanskrit texts in the English to appear as gibberish, I don't know whether he really wanted to do it or not. Perhaps he never wanted to do so, because he must have had his own deep respect to the texts which he undergoes. Anyway, the such things did not happen. The translations are fairly good, even today. So Macaulay, and then Macaulay's program, on the one hand, you get these newly educated Indians coming forward, the people of Bharat, give them these books, and they will read it. Then Macaulay would tell them that, look, the Brahmins who knew Sanskrit, they were cheating you all these years. And Macaulay was really afraid of Brahmins, because Brahmin is only caste. If you call it as a caste, I don't think it's a caste. Macaulay was seen. This is the only kind of people who are uniformly present in Bharat, to the length and breadth of Bharat, south to north and east to west. You find Brahmins everywhere. Other so-called castes do not, they are different in different parts. Then Macaulay found the general Hindus, they have an element of respect to Brahmins. And then he was afraid of the unification of Brahmins, possible unification of Brahmins. He thought, rightly thought, if the Brahmins unite and they will ask the people to throw away the British, that would happen. He was very terrified with the thought of the unification of Brahmins. But they were really not, Brahmins of course, they were very poor people in that sense, just live hand to mouth. Very few people are zamindars. Anyway, that's a different area to discuss. So they were really not involved into politics at that time. I mean, even now, so they're not involved in politics. So these he would accuse the Brahmins, saying that look at the translations which I got done, and this kind of nonsense is what written in your Vedas and Upanishads and other texts. And it is this nonsense that the Brahmins are presenting to you common people as something great. They were cheating you. They were deceiving you. They were taking you for a ride. So why should you listen to these Brahmins? And why should you listen to these texts? And in the meantime, Macaulay would get Bible printed in English, of course, in English, and give to these people, and he'll ask them to read the New Testament, not Old Testament, New Testament. Give to them. And one of the letters which Macaulay wrote to somebody back in England, he was so confident. He says, in 50 years of time, there won't be a single idle letter left in Bharat. All Hindus will become Christians. So that was his objective. So this kind of sadhish, this kind of things is not new to Bharat. Macaulay has done it. Along with Maximal Bechara. Maximal I would still call him as a Bechara. Poor fellow. He, of course, did not succeed, and he later got into a big trap, because he brought the Aryan theory. He borrowed the prototype Aryan theory from the 17th century European intellectuals who wanted to disconnect themselves from the Judaic heritage, to say that we are Aryans and we Christians are Aryans and they have nothing to do with the Jews. They wanted to say that, and that theory Maximal borrows. And he was talking about the Aryan invasion theory, to say that the Aryans came into Bharat and they have created all this knowledge system. So people of Bharat have no claim on it. It's actually by the Europeans. And Max Muller, he spoke about Aryans rhetorically, saying that they have blue eyes and golden hair and all, where he got into difficulties, because he talked about Aryans as he talks about himself. His own image, a German image comes out, and from that, Hitler takes off. Hegel believes in absolute. Hegel was very interested in Aryan theory. So he says Sanskrit is the language of us, the Germans, and Hitler fellow was drunk in the Aryan theory. All these things took place. This happened to my nation. Then, is this not what we call in Hindi sadish? Is this not a kind of attempt to take us for a ride through intellectual deception? Through lies. Intellectual deceptions are basically lies, fundamentally lies. And precisely this is what happened to our nation during election times, telling lies. 8,500 rupees will come to your account, and they're giving them guarantee card. I had some advocate has filed a case against such people in a case or I think objection with the election commission or case, something like that happened, I heard. So that his play was to cancel all the getting elected as members of parliament. Why these people did? Because behind them there were many organized, criminal-minded, hate-mongers with plenty of money and sufficient hatred in place of gunpowder, turned against Bharat. so that with a weak Bharat, get nitwits elected in this nation who will be so selfish to look after their own interest. There are leaders who spend enormous amount of money in furnishing their toilets. They are serving the people, right? I don't know the name. You can imagine who are they. Spend a lot of money to make their toilets and to furnish their houses in luxury, because he is not earning that money. He is not spending the money which he earns. He's spending somebody's money. So if he doesn't feel responsible to it, they are, I'll tell, dehumanized humans. So this kind of things, you make these people dance according to their tune. They wanted these nitwits to come to power who can never be strong, who can never be authentic. They do not have any vision. They simply want to get authority, power, and walk around the world as we are president or prime minister, going around. That they think that this is life. Of course, many of them had done nothing in their entire life, other than going in front of camera and speaking whatever trivial things comes out. You put potato from this side, you get gold from other side. I'll make a machine. Yes, you make a machine. यहाँ से आलू डाले, वहाँ से सोना ले लो. These kind of things. So such people, if they are elected into power, these external agencies, some of them may be corporates, there are some nations, some of them may have some other interest, some of them may have some other interest. You can understand all their people's interest. They will have various interests, and all these multiple interests can only function if this nation is weak. If the leaders can be made flexible, they can have their way. So they tried all these kinds of things in this election, which is very, very evident. We have evidence is coming from such kind of things. They have done it. So I just wanted to remind, this is nothing new. This is not new. This happened to us long before, and you see what happened? The Aryan theory bounced back on Europeans. It made no difference to Bharat at all. Of course, because of great minds like Maharishi Aurobindo, Swami Vivekananda, etc. And we were not affected. These stories did not affect us. Similarly, these stories also won't affect us. There may be temporarily people may get confused, but this confusion is not going to last long. You see, 200 years of British rule, 800 years of Mughal rule did not change anything in the core of our existence, did nothing to the authority of our Sanskriti. What do you think can happen in whatever things you might plan to do against us? Nothing. So don't waste your time in planning and spending money, funding, spending hours and hours and discussing, planning, getting people to work for you in all kinds of things. Create this agitation, Kisan agitation, that agitation, this agitation, and fund them. Make the agitation a mela, a kind of utsav. This is what has been happening, but I'm just telling, don't worry, this is nothing new. People have been doing this to us, like Macaulay, had been doing this to us for long time. I may not that seriously, accuse Max Muller, because he was trying to earn his bread and butter. He had nothing else to do. He was just trying to earn his bread and butter. And after that Franco-Prussian war, he had made a U-turn to say that I never said Aryans have blue eyes and golden hairs, etc., etc. That's a different story. He went to University of Stuttgart and gave a series of lectures saying that I never said this. He says, I never said Aryan is a race, it's only linguistic identity. He was trying to escape because he got scared that his British masters will be offended from his Aryan theory, though it was at the instance of Macaulay he had to create that. So this Sadish is nothing new to Bharat. People have been doing it since long. And there are people who would agree with the suggestions for this kind of programs and things for their petty personal gains interest, whom we call as Jaychans. There will always be Jaychans. There will always be people like that, and they will never succeed throughout. We don't say that we will be saved by God. We don't say that. We don't depend on the poor God for all kinds of things. Whatever we do on our own effort. There are meaningful people in this nation. There were great people in this nation, and there are great people in this nation, and this nation will continue to produce great people. They will come to realm of the places where one is supposed to sit, and they'll operate. They will do things. We just look around. There are many people who would do meaningful things. That's sufficient. That is sufficient. Just couple of people can nullify your entire effects. Swami Vivekananda, Rishi Aurobindo had nullified the entire Aryan theory. It had absolutely zero impact on Bharat, though it was intended to hit Bharat. Never done. So these things are nothing new. They had been doing it in the past also. They are doing it now. They will continue doing it also. Let them do. हमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ने वाला है. Nothing will happen to us. So till we meet again. Namaste. Jai Bharat. Jai Shri Ram.